All right. Sorry about that, everybody. We are ready to go ahead and get started. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on the WA Cares Fund. Today, we're going to be covering paid family caregiving with WA Cares. My name is Kristen Mackey, and I am the Community Relations and Outreach Program Manager for WA Cares. Our team is going to be answering questions in the Q&A function during the presentation, and will also be joining us for the Q&A portion of the webinar. If you're joining us on a computer or if you're using the Zoom app on your phone, you can submit your question through the Q&A function at any point as your questions come up. This webinar will be recorded. The recording along with the slides will be available on our website at wacaresfund.wa.gov/webinars within 24 hours of completion of the presentation. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So to begin with, we want to go over the definition of long-term care. Long-term care is help with activities of daily living, like bathing, eating, moving around, managing medication, but it doesn't include things like medical care, doctor's visits, treatment for medical conditions. Long-term care isn't just for older people. It can also help younger people who have a disability, an injury, or a severe illness. And a lot of people think that long-term care means living in a nursing home or assisted living, but it also includes in-home care and other services. WA Cares covers in-home care and many other services like home modifications or home delivered meals that can help you live at home as you age. In-home care can support mental and emotional well-being in addition to providing physical support. There was a 2025 study that showed home care significantly reduced people receiving care, their symptoms of depression, improved their quality of life, and lowered their risk of loneliness. With the right support, most people who have long-term care needs can keep living independently in their own homes. It's also really common for family caregivers to not realize that they are a caregiver. You might go to your mom's house a couple times a week to cook her meals, drive her to appointments, and make sure she's taken her meds. And those are all common care activities. And in fact, the majority of this type of care is provided informally as unpaid care from a family member, friend, or neighbor. And as we'll be talking about today with WA Cares, beneficiaries are able to use their benefit to pay a family member or a loved one to provide care for them. A program like WA Cares is needed because the way that we've paid for long-term care up until now really isn't working. Even though 70% of us will need long-term care at some point in our lives, most of us can't afford it. The cost of 20 hours of home care per week is just over $23,000 for 6 months, and other types of care can be even more expensive. But the median annual household income for Washington seniors is just $69,000 per year. That means that family caregivers have to step in and fill that gap, either by paying from their own savings or providing unpaid care. And that can have a real impact. Almost half of family caregivers report some kind of related financial setback, and they spend on average 26% of their own income on care-related expenses. Many of them have to leave the workforce early to provide care, and caregivers who are 50 and older who do this lose an average of more than $300,000 in wages and benefits. Most caregivers work full-time, and 61% of working caregivers say their care responsibilities impacted their job, often having to come in late, leave early, reduce hours, maybe turn down a promotion, or even quit or retire early. And there's an impact on businesses as well. When a working caregiver leaves their job, it can cost 1.5 times their salary to replace them. So how WA Cares works is that you automatically contribute 0.58% of your paycheck during your working years. You only contribute while you're working, and everyone is covered at the same low rate, regardless of pre-existing conditions. Starting very soon in May 2026, workers, people who need care and have earned benefits will be able to apply for benefits. You'll need to meet a contribution requirement and a care needs requirement. And then once approved, you get to choose how to use your $36,500 benefit amount. It is a lifetime amount that grows with inflation. And you can choose to use it for any covered services that you want. There are also no out-of-pocket costs when you need care. We pay the providers directly for the services that you receive with no copay or deductible that you have to pay yourself. And everyone who is contributing to WACARES for more than 500 hours per calendar year is earning benefits, and that includes part-time and temporary workers. To qualify for benefits, you have to beat the contribution requirement through one of three pathways. The permanent pathway allows you to earn the full benefit amount, which again, that's $36,500 by contributing for at least 10 years at any point in your career. Then the temporary pathway allows you to earn the full benefit amount at a point in time, as long as you've contributed for at least 3 of the last 6 years. At the time that you're applying for benefits, you can access that full benefit amount as well. Then we also have a transition pathway for folks who are near retirement right now as the program is starting. And so if you were born before 1968, you earn lifetime access to 10% of the full benefit amount for each year that you contribute. And these workers can also earn the full benefit amount if they qualify through another pathway. So for that type of pathway, if you worked and contributed for 2 years, you would earn 20% of the benefit amount, or $7,300. This is what contributions look like over the course of a career. A typical worker earns about $59,000 per year and pays $29 in contributions per month, which adds up to just over $10,000 total over a 30-year career. And to earn less in benefits than you contribute to WACARES, you would have to make an average of $210,000 each year for 30 years. To use your benefits, you also must meet the care needs requirement, which requires you to need help with 3 or more activities of daily living, and you must continue to need help for at least 90 days. The activities that we assess are bathing, bed mobility, transferring, toileting, mobility, eating, and medication management. And we also understand that cognitive limitations can affect the activities that a person is able to do. So this requirement was developed to ensure that it also includes anyone who needs assistance due to some kind of cognitive impairment, if they need supervision, if they need to be cued to start an activity, or some kind of a reminder in order to complete it. Once you are ready to apply for benefits, you will start by creating an online account. You can have someone else help manage your account, and your local area agency on aging will also be available if you need more support. Once you submit your application, we'll confirm that you've met the contribution requirement first. Then you'll be able to schedule an appointment with a team member to talk about your care needs. Then after we meet with you, we'll let you know if you're approved to start using your benefits. Once you've been approved, you can use your benefits to receive any covered services and supports from a WACARES provider. You might want to choose services to help you stay in your own home, like in-home care, home modifications, home delivered meals, or adaptive equipment and technology. We also cover many services that support family caregivers. You can get paid care from a loved one, including your spouse, or you can get respite care so that they can take a break from their care responsibilities. We also cover things like education and consultation that can help them manage your care, dementia and behavioral supports, and care transition coordination that can support you if you leave a facility like a hospital. You can also choose to receive services in your community, like an adult family home or adult day services, or you can choose to receive care in an assisted living facility or nursing home, including memory care. Benefits are going to become available shortly this year. So these are just a few key dates to be aware of. We are currently operating a pilot to test our entire system in Lewis, Mason, Thurston, and Spokane counties. And applications for that pilot just closed, and those folks are able to use services. Then last week on April 1st, we launched the ability to create an online account, which you can use to check statements, annual statements with your contribution history, and then eventually those same benefits accounts will be used for your application for benefits. On May 18th, applications will open statewide. Anyone in the state will be able to submit their application for benefits. And then on July 1st, all beneficiaries can start receiving services. Starting July 2026 as well, you can choose to continue participating in Walk Cares if you leave the state. So to become an out-of-state participant, you must have contributed for at least 3 years, again, for that 500 hours or more per year. And you must opt in as an out-of-state participant within a year of leaving Washington. Like other workers, out-of-state participants keep contributing to the program during their working years. And we are working on a process for out-of-state participants that they'll use to report their earnings and pay premiums. Then starting in July 2030, out-of-state participants will be able to access their benefits outside of Washington. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Christine Kane.
All right, thanks, Kristen. All right, so now we'll move into kind of the reason we're here, learning about becoming a paid family caregiver for Walk Care's beneficiaries. So we'll start here with who can apply to become a paid family caregiver. Any family member who is related by blood, marriage, or adoption, and this does include spouses and registered domestic partners. So they would all be considered a family member. And loved ones without a formal relationship, or, some of us use that term chosen family. Those folks can still become a paid caregiver for a beneficiary, but there are some differences there. So for our paid family caregivers, there are 2 employer options. And they are Consumer Direct Care Network Washington, or you might know them out there as CDWA, and registered home care agencies. And so it'll really be up to the beneficiary and that family member to decide which employer works best for them. Next slide, please. All right, so first we'll do kind of a high-level overview of CDWA. They are a registered provider of in-home personal care services. So beneficiaries will be able to connect with CDWA to hire individual providers or IPs for their personal care. We encourage beneficiaries who choose CDWA for in-home personal care to complete a WA Cares Care Agreement. We have one available on our website, and this care agreement basically outlines a beneficiary's care needs, what tasks a caregiver or an IP will need to do, how many hours you'll need, and a preferred schedule. So really just kind of like your own care plan that you'll create. With CDWA, the beneficiary will be considered the managing employer of the IP, of the individual provider. And so part of their responsibilities will be to select who to hire. So again, whether that's a family member, a chosen family, or a professional IP that's already employed with CDWA. So selecting who to hire, setting the schedule for that caregiver, assigning care tasks, again, through that care agreement, this can be done. And then they would be responsible for dismissing an IP if they no longer needed care or just were ready to move on. So With CDWA, if a beneficiary were to need to transition to Medicaid, so whether their benefits exhausted or just needs have changed, the family caregiver may continue to be paid to provide care with CDWA under Medicaid, except for spouses and registered domestic partners. Medicaid does not cover that family type currently. And then the CDWA will offer two rates to beneficiaries. And this will be something, again, between the beneficiary and the family member to decide what might work best for them. So CDWA will offer a standard rate, and this includes all employee benefits, so like healthcare, retirement, etc. And there are no hour restrictions, as we'll talk about in the family rate. So you'll be able to determine the hours for your caregiver with that rate. And then they're offering a family rate. And so this rate would be for beneficiaries who are hiring family members. Again, that includes spouses or domestic partners. It does not include employee benefits of healthcare or health insurance coverage or retirement benefits. And the hour limitation with this rate is under 20 hours per week. So again, the beneficiary and the family member will want to get together and figure out which of those rates will work best for their situation. Next slide, please. All right, so that was CDWA. So here's kind of an overview of home care agencies. So family members can be employed by a home care agency that is registered with WACARES. And just a plug, you'll be able to find those registered home care agencies through our provider directory. So you'll be able to search locally and see what home care agency is registered. The family caregiver who's employed by a home care agency would be supervised by the agency. So there'll be a supervisor who is assigning tasks, setting schedules for the caregiver in collaboration with the beneficiary. And they are, so home care agencies are required to create a plan of care under their licensing. So with CDWA, you would create your own, but with a home care agency, they will create a plan of care that will be followed by the caregiver. So depending on the agency that you work for, there are going to be some variables. So the hourly wage and the frequency of pay, for example, will vary between agencies. What type of health insurance or other benefits that are offered will also vary, along with union status. And with home care agencies, if you're unable, as a family caregiver, if you're having to call out on a shift, you're not able to make it one day, or you're needing backup support, home care agencies may be able to they can have substitute caregivers. Sorry. Next slide, please. All right. So the next, I think, 3 slides, we're going to go through this kind of comparison chart. So as a family member, considering becoming a paid family caregiver to a beneficiary, we're hoping we kind of answered a lot of the questions you might have. And you can kind of see the differences between our 2 employer options. So I'll just kind of go through, I'll read the questions to consider and then, what it is for CDWA and home care agencies. So we'll start, who will be my legal employer? So CDWA and the home care agency, both will be the legal employers of family caregivers. Who will be my supervisor? So with CDWA, it'll be the beneficiary. As I mentioned before, the beneficiary is going to be responsible for assigning tasks, hours, and schedule, that kind of thing. With the home care agency, again, it'll be an agency supervisor that's assigned to you, and they will work in collaboration with you and the beneficiary, though, on setting schedule and tasks and things. What will my hourly wage or my hourly pay be? With CDWA, their starting wage currently is $22.52, and this can be found on their website. It's updated as that changes. For home care agencies, that is going to be set by the agency. So that's one of those variables we talked about, I mentioned a minute ago. Will I have workers' compensation coverage? Yes, under both. Will I be paid for mileage if I use my car to take the beneficiary somewhere, which would be related to their long-term care? And under both options, yes, they offer mileage reimbursement. There are certain criteria with each. CDWA, they have a mileage limit. They reimburse up to a certain amount of miles. And home care agencies, they also do reimbursement, but will have their own kind of policies and expectations around that support. Will I have to fill out a timesheet? Yes, for both. You'll need to track your hours and submit in order to be paid accordingly. Will I be offered health insurance? And again, with CDWA, we have those two rates available to family caregivers. So if your beneficiary chose the standard rate, yes, you would be eligible to be offered health insurance. But under that family rate, no, you would not be offered health insurance. And with home care agencies, yes, you'll be offered health insurance if you're a full-time employee. Next slide, please. Okay. Will I have vacation time and holiday pay? Yes, with both. Okay. Would I get paid overtime if I work more than 40 hours? Yes, with both. That's the law. But just a reminder with that CDWA rate, the family rate, you do need to be scheduled under 20 hours per week. But things happen, and if you have to work over 40, you would be compensated for that time. Will I get retirement benefits? So for CDWA, again, we're looking at those two different rates. The standard rate, yes, and you'd be vested after 6 months of employment. And then again, under the family rate, no, you would not be offered the retirement benefits. And with home care agencies, it depends on the agency benefits. What does their kind of employee package, benefit package look like? If I cannot work a shift, will there be a substitute caregiver? If it's unexpected and you're not able to make it in, CDWA does not have a substitute caregiver pool. Home care agencies, though, they will, if one is requested, you'd want to contact that agency supervisor and coordinate. I will say with both, if it's a planned outage, they both do offer respite, and with enough notice, you could probably find like a substitute IP through CDWA. Will I have to pass a background check? Yes to both. Could I work for more than one beneficiary or client? Yes, for both as well. Next slide, please. All right, last few questions here. How often will I be paid? With CDWA, they pay every 2 weeks. And with the home care agency, it depends on the agency. Is there a union? Yes, for CDWA, and it depends on the agency or home care agencies. Will I have to pay taxes? Yes to both. If my family member transitions to Medicaid, can I still be their caregiver? With CDWA, as mentioned before, yes, if you're not a spouse or domestic partner. So any other family member relation type, yes. And with home care agencies, no. Family caregiving, paid family caregiving is not covered outside of WA cares. And then last question, will I have a care plan to follow? And again, this is optional, but beneficiaries are encouraged to complete that care agreement I spoke about earlier. And we will have a template available online, real easy to pull up and fill out.
係唔好意思，頭先嗰個音響唔得，而家得返啦。
Sam, can we mute the Korean interpreter? Okay. Sorry. Okay. And so, yes, with home care agencies, again, they are required to create a plan of care for each of their clients. Next slide, please. All right. So we kind of went through a comparison there, and you saw a lot about what's similar and what might be different between our two options. Here are some requirements for both employer types. So for both CDWA and any registered home care agency. So upon application, you'll have to apply to be hired. You'll need to pass a name and date of birth background check. And in some scenarios, folks will may have to do a fingerprint check as well. So we've got to satisfy the background check requirements. And all applicants, again, between both employers will need to complete 5 hours of online safety and orientation training. Or you might hear it referred to as S&O or ONS, but that is required before you're able to start paid care with a beneficiary. Once hired, you'll be required to complete a certain amount of training within 120 days of the first day of your employment. So family providers, so family caregivers, any relation other than spouse, will be required to complete 30 hours of training. And again, that will, you have 120 days from that first day of work to complete. Spouses and registered domestic partners, they will need to complete 16 hours of required training. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're hiring chosen family or a friend or a neighbor, or maybe just a professional IP, their required training amount is 70 hours of training within the 120 days. And then the little note there above the below the picture I mentioned is passing a fingerprint background check. That would also need to be done within 120 days of employment if you're required to complete one. Next slide, please. All right, so we've kind of finished up talking about, becoming a paid family caregiver, what the employer options are and what they look like. So we're going to kind of move now into what other types of supports and services WA Cares offers for all family caregivers, so paid or unpaid services. So available to the beneficiary is respite for family caregivers, and we offer respite through our in-home options that I just went over, but also through like residential or facility-based options, so like adult family home, assisted living, etc. We also offer dementia and behavioral supports. I'm gonna jump to my notes. Let's see. Okay, so dementia and behavioral support. So this is non-medical community-based support to both the beneficiary and their caregiver. The supports are intended to improve care for the beneficiary through a written strategy based on the beneficiary's identified behaviors. To address those behaviors and promote optimal functioning, behaviorally specific interventions are designed and individualized for the beneficiary. The next service listed here available is education and consultation. This provides beneficiaries and their caregivers, again, paid and unpaid family members, including non-medical education, consultation, and training regarding the beneficiary's diagnoses and any chronic health issues. So these services are intended to support the beneficiary to better manage their health, wellness, and activities of daily living. This includes services from medical and non-medical providers, but also evidence-based programs like STAR-C, which is a standardized intervention to help family caregivers identify, reduce, and manage difficult behavioral symptoms of their relative with Alzheimer's. We also offer housework and errands, and this support offers, general housework tasks, cleaning, doing laundry, things like that, in addition to essential errands or grocery shopping, getting to the bank, things like that. And we do want to note here, if you, as a family caregiver, are being paid to provide personal care, those services are covered under personal care. So personal care covers activities of daily living, and also instrumental activities of daily living. So that's the housework, the meal prep, the shopping. So carefully consider whether housework and errands, if you're not being paid to do that, this might be a good supplemental service for you. And then last, there's yard work and snow removal. And this is a support for just exterior maintenance of the home, making sure the beneficiary and their caregivers have safe access, getting in and getting out of the house, and that they're able to maintain their property so that they may remain in the community. Next slide, please. Okay. So a few additional services we want to touch on here that you might not consider offhand, looking at the title, that they are supports available, but this to supplement kind of in-home personal care and family caregivers. So let's see, we've got adaptive equipment and technology. So, some examples here would be getting a handheld shower head, maybe a portable duvet, dressing aids, transfer poles, medication dispensers, or telehealth support devices. So these might all be things to kind of help complement the in-home care and the paid caregiving services that you're offering a beneficiary. We also offer transportation services. Again, this transportation is covered under in-home personal care. So if you're employed with CDWA or a home care agency, again, you will be able, the transportation is covered. But if the beneficiary maybe has significant transportation needs that kind of exceed what those two employers are able to provide, you might want to look to our transportation service. We also offer home delivered meals and adult daycare. All right, next slide, please. All right, so this is our last slide. And so we wanted to put together here some resources for caregivers in general, family caregivers specifically for some of these. You'll see links to resources for family caregivers on our website, on the WACARES Fund webpage. There's the Dementia Action Collaborative. And then there are national associations that you could look up, such as Alzheimer's, MS is multiple sclerosis, heart disease, etc. There's the Family Caregiver Support Program offered through DSHS. There are, of course, our local area agencies on aging, great resources for for services. We've got the Community Living Connections website. There's a Family Caregivers tab, and I'll just make a plug that that's also where the WACARES Provider Network directory lives, is in that Community Living Connection site. And then, of course, your employer is going to be a great resource for you, whether you're working for CDWA or an agency. And if you are part of a union, they will also be a great resource for you as a caregiver. I think that's it for me, and I'll turn it back over to Kristen or Sam.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
So we will now move to the Q&A portion of the webinar. If you have a question, you can enter it at the bottom of your screen using the Q&A function, and we will get to answer those. First question, Kristen. For 3 out of the past 6 years, can you explain how that works since contributions started just 3 years ago? And then there's a second part to the question. If someone has been retired and they have not paid in, is it true that they can't access benefits?
All right. So first question, the 3 of the last 6 years is a point in time. So as long as at the point when you're applying for benefits, you have contributed for 3 years at some point in the previous 6 years, then you can qualify through that pathway. So for anybody who's applying in 2026, if they have 3 years that they contributed since the program started, then they will meet that pathway and can get the full benefit amount. The last 6 years is really just meant to ensure that that's a pathway for workers who have contributed recently, but maybe haven't earned that full 10-year pathway yet. And then for the second part, someone who is retired and has never contributed to WACARES cannot access benefits. It is an earned benefit, so you do have to contribute to meet that contribution requirement. But I think we also maybe have a question about the pathway, the transition pathway for folks who were born before 1968. And so I'll also just mention that for anyone who has worked and contributed to WACARES but was born before that year, can earn those prorated benefits for each year that they contribute. So they can still access benefits. They still have earned permanent access to their partial benefit amount, even if they've only worked 1 year and contributed for 1 year to WACARES.
Is the maximum benefit amount $36,500? And once that amount is reached, then does coverage stop?
Yes, that's correct. It is a lifetime limit. So once you have reached $36,500, or if you have prorated benefit on the transition pathway, then once you've reached your full benefit amount, then you've exhausted your benefit amount.
Christine, there's a question on the registration form that says, I am a caregiver for my boyfriend. Does that count as a loved one? Will I still be able to get paid for that?
Yes. So if your loved one, if your boyfriend qualifies for WACARES and you want to become paid to provide caregiving services, yep, you would just be hired with CDWA or a home care agency. Actually, it would be, I think, just CDWA. No, well, either one. You would just have to take that full 70 hours of training. That would be the main difference.
It looks like that's all the questions from the registration form, and I don't see any more in chat or in the Q&A function. I'll give you just another minute, and then we can continue on. Okay, Kristen, next slide. So as soon as you close out of today's webinar, there will be a survey on how the webinar was today. If you could take a minute to complete that survey, that would be great. I do see right after I moved on, there's 2 more questions in the Q&A, so I'll go to those. Christine, can a spouse be a paid caregiver?
Christine is asking to be unmuted.
Yes. I think you have
Thank
to.
you. Something happened. I
Yeah.
wasn't able to unmute. Sorry. Yes, a spouse can be a paid caregiver. So when at Walk Cares, when we talk about paid family caregiving, that will always include spouses or registered domestic partners.
And then can you go over the family rate versus standard rate again? Does it relate to all hourly pay or just for benefits?
Yeah,
And
mhm.
is there current rates available?
Yeah, great clarification question on the standard versus family rate. It is only related to employee benefits being offered. It does not impact the hourly pay or hourly wage of the caregiver. Those are going to be the same across the rates. So it's really just we're able to offer, CDWA is able to offer a reduced rate, the family rate, because we're not going to be including health insurance or retirement benefits. We recognize that a lot of family caregivers may already be employed, have other employment, and may not need access to those. And so that's what that family rate is there for. The standard rate, it's kind of that full employee benefit package available to the person. And again, but the hourly wage is not impacted by the rate. And did I get the other, let's see, what was the other?
The other one is there rates, like current rates available?
Yes, I believe we have the rates available on our website. And Sam, or
Yes.
Kristen, you might need to help me with where, but yes,
Yeah,
the
I
rates
can
are
drop the
available.
link in chat.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I'm going to put the link in chat for our current rates sheet. Rates may be updated, so I recommend coming back to the URL to look to see our most current rates and not using a downloaded version. Christine, does a beneficiary pay for the training out of their benefits?
They do not. Training is covered in the rate. So the rate that they're paying to the home care agency or to CDWA covers all of that required training to the paid family caregiver. So no out of pocket.
Great. Next slide, Kristen. To find today's webinar materials, you can visit our website at wcaresfund.wa.gov/webinars. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for the most up-to-date information. If you do have any additional questions, you can contact our customer care team by email at the web form down below, or you can give us a call at the 844-CARE4WA phone number. If you have questions specifically about employers or exemptions, you can call the ESD help number right there in the middle. Next slide. I don't know if there is another one. Great. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. We hope to see you at a future webinar, and definitely reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.